Well, everyone, hello. It is Friday. Yes, I'm back. I am live here in the studio today. Sorry about being out yesterday. I promise I will catch you up on everything that we missed, anything that we don't cover today. Well, I'm sorry. We got an hour. We're going to have to get into it pretty fast here. 844 Studio 4 is the phone number. If you want to be a part of the program, you can call me up. I'm probably going to answer the phone because, if I see it light up, it means one of you guys out there wants to chat about something going on in the world of sports, and I love hearing from you, the listeners, because you usually let me know about something that, maybe I didn't know about it. What I do know about right now is high school sports. Yes, the state championship games are going to be starting today. We are going to have baseball, softball, and women's soccer all in action tonight. I'm going to have game times for you. I'm going to have the location for you in case you want to know where these games are taking place. Maybe you're going to go out there tonight or, even Saturday. There's going to be games all day on Saturday, maybe possible game threes in baseball. I think that would be pretty fun to see. That's, personally, I think that would be pretty cool. Also, we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of NASCAR. After the Coca-Cola 600, we have to talk about life after that race. Now, I still have not seen any official wording from NASCAR as far as Kyle Larson and him getting a waiver or not. And I got to be honest, I thought it would happen a lot faster than this. This is making me think that they might actually be considering not giving Kyle Larson a waiver. It would just be another one of those NASCAR moves, Yes, I would agree with them on that in a sense, but you got to stay consistent. You grant waivers to everybody else. You suspended a driver and gave him a waiver to get into the playoffs. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we will preview Worldwide Technology Raceway, WWT, also known as Gateway. There are a lot of different things you can call this racetrack, so we will be previewing that as well. Probably hearing from some drivers. We will bring some audio to the show here, as I do have sound from certain drivers I'm going to want to bring to the show for you guys to hear. Also, the NBA Finals is set. We know who the game is going to be against. We have set times, start times, days that the games are going to be. We'll preview all of that. Now, we have a few days before we get to the NBA Finals. Game number 1, just so you know, June 6th. So that is a little bit of time from now, but we can still preview it, talk a little bit about who's going to be playing. Now, I'll let you know, I really feel like this one could be over quick, but with how Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving have been playing recently, could be a little bit more competitive than I originally think. But the Celtics, far and above the better team here. They are going to be hard to beat. But if anybody is going to do it, I would give it to those Dallas Mavericks. They got a really good squad over there. Some NHL action from last night. We don't quite know what day the Stanley Cup is going to be starting. Well, we know it's going to be starting June 9th. It's going to be June 8th, 2 days after the NBA. Let's go back on that. June 6th, the NBA finals start. June 8th, the NHL finals begin. So we will, we're going to have to wait another couple of days before we see who is going to be in the Stanley Cup final. One series is now sitting at 3-2. The other series with a game going on tonight sitting tied 2 games apiece. So we'll talk about the game from last night as well as preview what's going on tonight with the Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers. Also, in the world of soccer, Charlotte FC had a game on Wednesday. They're going to have another game on Sunday. That one you're going to be able to listen to right here on WSIC. So we'll preview that game. Charlotte FC went on a really nice run there for a while, but unfortunately, good runs do come to an end. That's what we saw happen on Wednesday, so we'll chat about that as well. But let's get back into the high school sports scene. Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4A baseball and softball tonight, as well as the women's soccer 4A state championship. Now, baseball and softball is not a deciding game. It is a 3-game series. All game ones are going to be today. All game twos are going to be tomorrow. And then if we need those crucial, decisive, winner-take-all game threes, that will happen Saturday night. So this is all going to be wrapped up by Saturday. We will have no more high school playoffs going on, no more high school sports to talk about until everybody goes back to school in the fall. So recapping who we have in baseball and softball. In the 1A softball bracket, East Wilkes High School takes on Northside Pinetown. That game is going to be at 5 p.m. tonight. Now, a reminder for you of where these games are going to be played. The softball championships are going to be at Duke Softball Stadium and the University of North Carolina Greensboro Softball Stadium. 1 and 3A is going to be at Duke. 2 and 4A is going to be at Greensboro. For baseball, you have the 1 and 3A schools at Holly Springs Ting Stadium and the 2 and 4A Burlington Athletic Stadium. So I will let you know where these games are as well. So the first game that we're going over, softball 1A, East Wilkes versus Northside. That's a 5 o'clock game at the Duke softball field. 2A will begin at 7:30 at UNC Greensboro between Midway High School and Southwest Randolph. The 3A schools are Kings Mountain and South Brunswick. Game 1 at Duke Stadium, 7:30. And at 5 o'clock, the 4A game, Gardner High School versus Weddington. 5 o'clock, UNC Greensboro. Those are the 4A schools. All of those are game number 1 for softball. Getting into baseball, let's go in order of what time these games are. So 5 o'clock in Burlington, you're going to have the 2A game number 1. Burns High School, Green Central High School, 5 o'clock at Burlington. The 3A schools, East Rowan and South Central. By the way, South Central making their first ever state championship appearance. South Central and East Rowan, 5 o'clock at Ting Stadium. The 4A teams, TC Robertson and Ashley High School at 8 p.m. at Burlington, and Uwharrie Charter and Northside Pinetown game 1s are going to be at Ting Stadium at 8 o'clock tonight. That is the 1A schools. These are all game 1s for baseball and softball. We are going to have game 2 Saturday. I can't tell you who it's going to be that's going to have a chance to win, obviously. But on Monday, we'll go over all of this. These championship games are getting started. When we return, we'll talk a little bit more about high school, then we'll turn our attention to the world of NASCAR. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Scoreboard here on this Friday. We'll be back right after this.
More of Sports Director Joe Berg's The Scoreboard is coming up on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, you may be asking yourself, how long can the nice weather, the low humidity,
WSIC.
All right, everyone, welcome back. How are we? Studio 4. That's 844-788-3464. Call me up, anything you'd like to chat about. We're going over the high school state championship games coming up today. Actually, some of these games are probably going on right now. As we speak here on the scoreboard, there were a lot of 5 o'clock first pitches. So maybe if you're out there, let me know how it's going. Call in, report live from the scene. I doubt you're listening to the radio while watching a state championship game, but if you are, I'd love to hear from you. 844 4. Like I said, we are going to go over all of the winners of these state championship games when we come back on Monday, but I got to let you know who is playing where and when these games are. Now, the only games that we haven't talked about are women's soccer, and there is only one women's soccer game going on today, so let's go ahead and let you know where that one is. That is the 4A championship, by the way. Women's soccer 4A championship. Marvin Ridge High School versus Ashley High School, 7 p.m. tonight at the Mecklenburg County Sports Complex. Now, all of the women's soccer finals are set to be at the Sportsplex in Matthews, the Mecklenburg County Sportsplex in Matthews. Only one of those games is today. Tomorrow, it's an early start and a late end. At 11 a.m., you have the 1A championship between Christ the King and Woods Charter. At 2:30, it's the 3A championship, South Point High School versus Jacksonville. And at 6 p.m. on Saturday, number 1 seed Pine Lake Prep takes on number 4 Seaforth High School. Every women's championship game, like I said, every single one of them is at that Mecklenburg County Sportsplex in Matthews. So not a far drive if you want to go to those games this weekend, and maybe you're going to be heading down there tonight for the 4A championship. The 4A championship reminder, Marvin Ridge versus Ashley High School. Marvin Ridge relatively close to us here. I mean, it's in Waxhaw, but it's out of our listening area, but it's relatively close. So maybe we'll see some. And Christ the King in Huntersville, Pine Lake and Mooresville, there are a lot of local schools in that women's soccer championship. As far as baseball goes, though, it's a little bit of a different story. Yeah, we don't have to talk about that. Anyway, let's chat about NASCAR. Let's completely turn things around. Let's get on the track here and begin our NASCAR talk, because there's been a lot of fallout from this past weekend, I should say, at the Coca-Cola 600, where Kyle Larson was going to attempt the double, and it didn't work out because of weather, but he still decided to stay where he was. I mean, it's just kind of a mess, if you ask me, the discourse that there's been about this race and should Kyle Larson get a waiver. And all I'll say about the waiver is, no, they haven't given him one yet. Are they going to? I really think they are. I'm surprised it's taken them so long. It's a joke at this point. I mean, the waiver system, the playoffs, it doesn't make any sense anymore. You can't have a system where you say you have to race every single race in order to be eligible. And then you turn around and just allow guys to miss races. Now, injury is different. I'm not taking anything away from 2015 Kyle Busch. I know a lot of people are mad about that one, but that is one of the very few circumstances where I am okay with it. Alex Bowman was sick at one point in 2022, I believe. He got a waiver. So waivers for injuries and illness, I understand. Where it gets murky and it becomes a problem is when you see what happened last year with Chase Elliott getting hurt in I believe it was skiing accident where he broke his leg and he missed the first 6 or 7 races of the season. Yes, he got injured. Yes, it was away from the sport of NASCAR, but they still granted him the playoff waiver to make him playoff eligible should he qualify. I didn't have a problem with that. The big problem was a few weeks later at the Coke 600 when he wrecks the 11 car of Denny Hamlin on purpose, gets suspended by NASCAR, and they still say, yes, we're giving you a waiver. This was an action that was taken on the track, and he still remained playoff eligible. Now, there's a lot you can say about that. Like, should he get suspended and lose his eligibility because of that? I don't care. I mean, the rule is there. Kyle Larson, should he lose his eligibility because he decided to stay at the Indianapolis 500? Yeah, it's written like that in the rules. I mean, why do we even have a playoffs? Why are we doing all of this when there's still a black and white area where there's a gray area and it's not black and white between who is and who isn't going to be playoff eligible and get a waiver? This was a decision that Kyle Larson made, that Rick Hendrick made. The rain stopped. It looked like the Indianapolis 500 was going to happen. And they said, you know what? We are not going to Charlotte. We are not going to do our job. We are not going to do what we have a career in. We're going to do this one fun, one-off race, the Indianapolis 500, just for fun, not for points, just because it'd be cool to see Kyle Larson do the double. And I agree, it would be really cool to see him do the double, but you cannot just abandon your job like that. Like, it is your job to be at Charlotte in the race car for the Coke 600 because you need to be. Because there is a rule in NASCAR that says if you want to be a part of the playoffs, you have to make every single race. And I understand the conversation of, oh my goodness, but he was bringing eyes to NASCAR. He was bringing eyes to IndyCar. Yeah, that's all fine and cool, but don't miss the race because of it. I don't care if rain happens. We know this in motorsports, rain happens. So you have to be prepared for that. And it just feels like they weren't prepared. They just wanted to do it and get it over with and assume that NASCAR would grant eligibility to Kyle Larson. I'm glad they're waiting. If it was me, I would not be granting the waiver. If it was me, we would not have a playoff system to begin with, because then you get into all of these issues. By the way, when you look at the NASCAR standings right now, in the current points format, Kyle Larson, with missing a race, is only 6 points behind Denny Hamlin. So that could be a whole new wrench thrown in this system, is if he isn't given a waiver and he doesn't make the playoffs, what if he still wins the regular season championship? Like, your whole sport is kind of being thrown up in the air right now and sliced up and saying, why are we allowing all of this buffoonery to happen? Like, it really doesn't make sense to me. But Kyle Larson, it was great to see him race at Indianapolis. Now, I didn't see the race at Indianapolis. I was at Charlotte. But I don't think they should be giving out waivers like this. I don't think there should be a waiver unless you're injured or really sick. Because you created this playoff system where if you win, you're in, right? If you win, you're in, and you have the rule that you can't miss races to keep somebody from winning Daytona 500 week and saying, you know what, we're just going to take the next 10 races off. We'll be back. That's why you have this rule. And I get it, completely different circumstances, but I'm not mad at Kyle Larson. I'm not mad that he did this. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's great publicity for the sport of NASCAR, for IndyCar, for U.S. motorsports in general. I just have a problem with NASCAR bending their rules time and time again. When have we ever seen a driver apply for a waiver and NASCAR say no? I don't think we have. And I also don't think that we'd be having this conversation if it was just a year-long point system, which it should be. You could still use the stages and the stage breaks and the stage points, whatever you want to do. But then you get even more confusing with, Larson missed a race, but he's only 6 points out of the point lead. It's a very slippery slope that NASCAR is on right now. I don't know how much of this conversation is going to spill into Gateway, but I do want to talk about Gateway and preview Gateway, but we're coming up on a commercial break. So go ahead, stay tuned. We are going to talk about the race weekend here for NASCAR coming up at Gateway. The race weekend schedule before we go, just so you know, everybody is racing this weekend, but the ARCA Series is at Portland, as is the Xfinity Series. So we have a little bit of a 2-spot races going on here. So stay tuned. We'll talk about all of that on the other side of the break. You're listening to The Scoreboard. We're back after this. right, everyone, welcome back. It is now the second half here on this beautiful Friday. 844-STUDIO-4 is the phone number. It'll get you on to the show. Talk about anything you want to chat about. We're in the world of NASCAR right now. We are going to an interesting track, Worldwide Technology, or WWT, or Gateway, as it's called. It's been on the schedule for a couple of years. By the way, there's one driver that has stood out in those 2 years, and that is the driver of the 8-car, Kyle Busch, who has finished first and second in the two races at this racetrack over the past couple of years. Joey Logano, also a driver who seems to have pretty good success here. Now there's only been 2 races, so we can't take that with, too much. But a first, a second for Kyle Busch, that is something to consider if you're maybe a betting person when it comes to NASCAR. It is a very interesting racetrack, Gateway. It's kind of like a reimagined Darlington, with one side of the track being a lot tighter than the other side of the track. The straightaways are longer. It is a very interesting and unique track. Here is Alex Bowman on what makes Gateway so unique.
Yeah, it's just got really long straightaways, right? It's really tough to get a hold of. I think it's the only place we downshift twice getting into turn 1 there. So you're shifting more than normal. Quite honestly, we just haven't been very good there in the past. Hopefully we've worked pretty hard to go back better than we have in the last couple of years. So hopefully that pays off. But, it's just a really unique, different racetrack, 2 completely different ends. And it's tough to get a hold of for sure.
Like I said, those long straightaways are much different than what you see at Darlington. But the fact that one end of the racetrack has a tighter turn than the other, it does have some of the characteristics that you would see at Darlington. Nothing like Darlington in the way it races. Nothing at all. Don't get me wrong. They're going to be nowhere near the fence this weekend. At least I don't think they are. Maybe running the middle line in 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is a much tighter turn, and it's got more banking than what you'll see in 3 and 4. If you haven't checked out one of the races at Gateway yet, you should. The drivers seem to be enjoying it. Here's what Martin Truex Jr. has to say about Gateway being added to the schedule.
I think it's been an awesome track. I think it was surprising the first year we went there, and I remember racing there back in the day. It was single file on the bottom, and if you couldn't outturn somebody on exit, you couldn't pass. And we went there, and next thing you know, we're running four wide and running the 4th lane to make lap time in the race. So it was a lot of fun. It's been a good track.
And it has. If you remember the battle between Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain, those 2 drivers were going at it at Gateway before. So I'm expecting a decent race. This car should run okay. I'll say okay at this racetrack. It's not a typical high banked 1.5 miles, but it's also not a short track. It's definitely got an interesting feel to it. So we'll see what happens this weekend. My pick for the race, I think I would be in trouble if I didn't continue to pick Kyle Larson to win these races, but I want to go with the 8-car, Kyle Busch. I really want him to turn his season around this year. I picked him to be a contender for the championship. Now, it hasn't turned out that way to start the year. When you look at the standings and where Kyle Busch is, sitting 14th this many races in. We're 14 weeks into the season now. It's not something that you typically see out of Kyle Busch. So I'll be looking at him to maybe turn it around this year. The Xfinity Series is at Portland this weekend. That is a road course. So on Saturday, you're going to have practice, qualifying, and the race all in one from Portland. It's the Pacific Office Automation 147 from Portland. but the trucks are at Gateway. Today, you're going to have a practice and a qualifying session. It's going to be a little bit later on after this show, qualifying set for 6:30, and then the race is going to be Saturday at 1:30. That race should be over by time the Xfinity race at 4:30 begins from Portland. So you're going to get to see a little bit of different racing. And then obviously on Sunday, we have the Enjoy Illinois 300 from Gateway. That race scheduled to start around 3:30. Now, usually we would cover these NASCAR races here on WSIC, but Charlotte FC is in action this weekend. They'll be playing right around the same time as the Cup Series will be racing. So WSIC will be carrying the Charlotte FC game versus Atlanta United. 4:45 is the kickoff on that one. So coverage should begin right around 4:15 on Sunday. And for Charlotte FC, their most recent game was on Wednesday. They lost 3-1 to the New York Red Bulls. Goaltender Christian Kalina no longer with his clean sheet streak. He had 5 consecutive games not allowing a goal. And that is what Charlotte FC needs to do if they're going to get into this playoff race. Now, they're not out of it, but they aren't completely in the clear and sitting with a nice cushion to the remainder of the standings here. They are currently sitting 7th, 3 points ahead Philadelphia and Nashville, who are 8th and 9th. And then the first team out, DC, has 18 points. So that's just a little over a game advantage for Charlotte FC when it comes to playoff positioning. There are teams ahead of them that are really solid in the playoffs. Miami FC, Inter Miami, man, they are killing it this year. 10 wins, 3 losses, 4 draws, whereas Charlotte FC has 6 wins, 6 losses, 4 draws. So Charlotte FC is going to look to turn things around. They got to figure out how to win on the road. I've talked about it before. When they were in the Red Bull Arena on Wednesday, they did not look good. That brings their away record to 1 win, 5 losses, and 1 in overtime. It is nice to see that the team has figured out how not to blow a game in the final minutes. We haven't seen a stoppage time goal against in a while. Now, the one goal that Charlotte FC was able to score against the Red Bulls, that was a stoppage time goal of their own. It was actually in the 90th plus 6 minutes from striker Ben Bender. That's what got them the 1 goal in the game, but it was over well before then. So Charlotte FC currently sitting 7th in the standings. If it ended today, that would put them solid in the playoffs, but there's a long way to go. October 19th against DC on the road is going to be the last game of the season for Charlotte FC. So we got to keep winning, got to figure out how to make the road showing a lot better, because 5-1-3 at home is great. 1-5-1 away from home, well, it could be a lot better. And honestly, it needs to be a lot better if they're going to have any success late in the season and coming into the postseason. So we'll continue to track the Charlotte FC season as well. Coming to the final stopping point of the day on the scoreboard, one more segment to go. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to talk NBA Finals, NHL playoffs, and then we'll send you into the weekend. We'll be back right after this.
on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's the final segment on this beautiful Friday afternoon. 844 Studio 4. It'll get you onto the studio here. Part of the show. Whatever you want to talk about, it's up to you. We are going to get into the NBA Finals because right now we have the matchup, as last night there was a game between the Mavericks and the Timberwolves, and the Dallas Mavericks, well, they punched their ticket to the NBA Finals. Coverage of NBA Finals is going to begin in June the 6th, to be exact. That's going to be a Thursday, 8:30 start time. This series will run all the way to June 23rd if necessary. That would be where Game 7 is. The Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks will be playing each other in the NBA Finals. The last time the Mavericks were here, well, it was with Dirk Nowitzki on their team. The Celtics, they were here a few years ago and lost, one of the more disappointing losses for a team. Now, for the Celtics, you can erase so many years of underachieving if you just take care of business. You are favored in this series. You are expected to win. And if you do not win, it's going to be a problem. I'm not saying that the Celtics are going to blow it up if they lose, but if it were me running the franchise, I would take a serious look at some of the players that we have on that court, because man, you have a roster like that and you can't win a championship. You got different coaches going in there. I don't know what you can say other than it's got to be some of the players. They just aren't what we expected. Right now, the Boston Celtics are favored to win the series, minus 210. The Dallas Mavericks, plus 175. Those are your current betting lines for the NBA Finals. Game number 1 begins June the 6th in Boston at 8:30. We will be talking about the NBA Finals. I'm going to be glued to this game. I think it's going to be pretty good. Luka Doncic is just magical. He is a different player. And if you haven't had the chance to watch him play, maybe you're somebody who only watches the finals, the NBA Finals. You're going to watch some incredible basketball. That guy knows how to put it in the bucket. With that being said, I got to make my prediction. I'm going with the Boston Celtics winning this series in 6 games. Yes, 6 games. I don't think it's quite going to go 7. Who knows? Maybe the Mavericks come out storming and sweep. I doubt that's going to happen, but man, with the way that the Celtics have played in the finals before and in the playoffs and with all the lofty expectations, I wouldn't be surprised if they fell short. But I am picking them to get the job done. Celtics winning the series in 6 games. We have the days for the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. That's the thing. NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Final. It's a little weird wording there, if you ask me. But Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final, Saturday, June 8th at 8 p.m. None of these NBA and NHL games are going to interfere with each other, considering ESPN has the broadcasting rights to both of them. I doubt they would put them up against each other, and they didn't. It is going to be appointment viewing here, as you're going to have one game at night. There will be a few days where we don't have a game. There's some 2-day travel built into the playoff schedule here, but for the most part, you're going to get to watch a finals game every single night coming up next week. I'm excited. I love the NBA finals. The NHL finals are different. The NHL playoffs are completely different from anything that we have here. And tonight we get another NHL playoff game. It's the Western Conference Finals, the Dallas Stars taking on the Edmonton Oilers. What a time to be a fan of Dallas sports. You had the Texas Rangers. I don't know. They're not really Dallas. They're the Texas Rangers. Arlington. So, yeah. They won the World Series. And now this year, you got the Mavericks in the NBA Finals. You got the Dallas Stars 2 games away from going to the NHL Stanley Cup Final. And, well, the Cowboys, who would have thought that in 2024, the Cowboys would be the worst team in Dallas? That's the way it shakes out, though. The Cowboys, the worst team in Dallas. So tonight you have the Edmonton Oilers on the road taking on Dallas. And this is a good series. This has been a much more competitive series than I thought. I really thought that Dallas might just take a stranglehold on this series, maybe win it in 5 because they are such a deep team. But the top-end talent of the Oilers, man, McDavid, Draisaitl, you cannot count those two out. Connor McDavid is the most impressive athlete that we have in sports right now. I'm not wrong about that. Go watch McDavid play. There's a reason he's nicknamed McJesus. He's incredible. Last night, you had the Florida Panthers taking on the New York Rangers, my favorite team in the NHL. What are you doing, Rangers? You look great for 2 periods, and then the Rangers gave up in the third, is what it seemed like to me. The tides turned in that third period. I'm sad. I'm sad. The Rangers are down 3-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals. They've been there before. 2022, the Rangers were in the Eastern Conference Finals. They were 2 games away from going to the Stanley Cup, and it didn't happen. I got some breaking news here on my phone. The Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight has been postponed. Boxing mega fight to be rescheduled after doctors order Tyson to rest following ulcer this week. This is not a sporting event. This is a money grab. Do not give this any of your attention, please. But, if you care, it got delayed. And you got 20-something-year-old Jake Paul fighting 50-something-year-old Mike Tyson. That's just ridiculous, if you ask me. Anyway, back to the NHL. I'm Game 6, Rangers-Panthers, Saturday, 8 o'clock. Hopefully a Game 7 coming up on Monday. I don't know, though. It's going to be tough for the Rangers to come back from this one. Those Florida Panthers are a very annoying team, and they are a very good team as well. Coming up on the end of the program today, let's go ahead and see what we have for this day in sports history. On this day, let's see, where is it here? On this day, in 1950, Indianapolis 500 news. Johnny Parsons becomes the first American to win a world championship event after the race was stopped after 138 laps due to rain. Johnny Parsons, the first American. There's a lot of Indy 500 news. On this day, 1967, A.J. Foyt weaved his way through a pileup on the final lap to win his 3rd Indy 500, his first win with a Goodyear tire. And it was the first Indy 500 win for Goodyear since 1919. How about that one? On this day, in 1985, the New Orleans Saints are sold for $70 million. That's a pretty good deal for a football team. $70 million for the New Orleans Saints. I wouldn't be able to afford that, but that's not absurd or anything. But yeah, maybe we can put a WSIC fund together. Maybe one day we purchase a sports team here. Also on this day, 2002, the New Jersey Nets defeated the Boston Celtics in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Championship, winning the series 4-2 and advancing to their first NBA Finals appearance. Remember the New Jersey Nets? Yeah, they're in Brooklyn now. Anyway, that is it here for the Scoreboard. Thanks for tuning in this week. Appreciate every one of you. Watch some sports. Watch some high school championship games. We got NHL, NBA action next week. It's going to be a fun one. NASCAR on Sunday. Have a great one. See ya.